Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to today's show on Life's Little Lessons. And today, I just want to introduce to you a lady that I met just recently on Facebook, and she is a wonderful lady from what I've known from her so far. She actually hails from Denver, Colorado. Her name is Allison Taylor. She's actually has a company called Breakthrough Seminars that she's been running since basically 2001. So like 16, 17 years in business now. And she is actually an entrepreneur coach and a marketing and sales strategist. Allison, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody, as well. And Allison, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and why is it that you do what you do?
Oh, probably a long story. I'll make it kind of quick, but I've been living here in Denver for about 22 years. I'm originally from Chicago, and I have always been in marketing and sales, started out in marketing research. And so that really kind of informed everything I've done since. And so I'm used to finding out what customers want, what they think, what their perceptions are, why they refer you or don't, what customer loyalty, really means. And so I really see business through the eyes of the customer because I just started that way really early. And so I did start my company in about 2001. And I would love to have this amazing answer for you. Just saying I had this aha, moment or this perfect product that I was going to sell to everybody. But really, I had two boys. I was a single mom, didn't plan on being a single mom, got divorced, and I didn't want to work from 8 to 6 every day. I wanted to do homework with my kids and drive them to school and see them, in the school plays. So I really became an entrepreneur because I wanted to be a good mom. And I kind of didn't know what I was going to do. So I was doing marketing and sales. I'd had a lot of success. I'd moved up. And so I just jumped into it and started with marketing consulting. And over time, my business has changed, quite a bit. So now I do a lot more training. I have a lot of innovative marketing and sales strategies. I do a lot with the subconscious side of sales, the subconscious side of advertising and marketing, and even leadership, how people grow their businesses. So it's changed over time. But I got to drive my kids to school and be a great mom. And I worked a lot on the weekends and made it happen.
So did you just start the business while you were still working a job, or did you go all out, quit your job, and you started your own business?
Well, I was working for a startup. So back in 2001, you have to remember, it was the dot-com boom. Everybody had money. Everybody threw money at everything. Training was big business. So we went through a decline where training became a nice to have, not kind of a core thing. So it got a little harder there. Kind of 2008 to 2010 was a little rough in that industry. Consultants were optional in a lot of industries. So, but back then, pretty easy actually to get business. But I was working for a dot-com startup and had jumped from one to another a few times, and it went under. And not for any reason about the business, but we lost our funding, and it was based on something the CEO did. So I found myself without a job. So it was either find a job or start a company. And I found a client, and I found another client, and I had enough money to pay my bills. So I just thought, okay. And I think I was telling you this before. I didn't know enough to be scared. I was just like, okay. And I just jumped into it. And my first year in business was one of the best years I had, in the first 10 years of my business. And then I started to think about it, and then I got a little scared. But at the beginning, it actually was an easy transition. And, I think a lot of people do, when you lose a job and you're not expecting that, you don't feel in control. And so, you do kind of think, well, maybe if I worked for myself, it'd be, at least would feel like I had a little more say in the situation.
And I can fully understand where you're coming from in that. And I've said this on a few of the other shows, but back in 1999, I was working on Y2K. I was a computer programmer at that time. So this is right before the .com. So it's for same time frame though. And I ended up getting downsized rather unexpectedly in the middle of 1999. This was like July 1999. And I was left with the whole idea of, do I still want to work for corporate America or not? And I've said this a few times, is since that day in July of 99, I've never worked a full-time job for a company ever again. I did not trust. I mean, there was no loyalty to me. It was just like, well, sorry, we got to let you go. And I get it, because companies were going up and down, .coms going up and down, recessions. I mean, you have to let go of people that you have to downsize sometimes just so the company can survive. So I get it. But however, personally, it was, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to work for corporate America anymore.
Yes, absolutely. So I kind of started just as a consultant with multiple clients and just working as a 1099 contractor. And then over time, I created programs and training programs and coaching programs, and even some outsourced, like being an outsourced sales manager for companies. And so those things had, prices and sign up dates and, live events, online events, all those kinds of things. So it got more productized over time, but at the beginning, it was just kind of me, hoofing it for business.
And let me ask you this, because I've talked to a few different people that started their own businesses, but they undervalued themselves. Now, did you go through anything like that? Okay, she raised her hands, by the way, for those of you that are listening to the show. So you undervalued yourself at the very beginning?
Yeah, and I think most people do. And when I work primarily with entrepreneurs, and I love doing that. That's why I was really excited to meet you and to hear about what you're doing with your show. But entrepreneurs to me are the most passionate people out there. They're smart. They're willing to step into risk for a reward. I mean, it really is all up to you. And it can be really difficult, and having a support system, is important. And it's really different than having a corporate job. And it's definitely not for everybody, for sure. So I really respect entrepreneurs. I find it being fun, but I work with people on the same topic all the time, what you value yourself. And so really what I've tried to do over the years is not just have a price and keep it, but really reevaluate it, like at least once a year. Am I really charging what I'm worth? Am I charging what the market can bear, or what I think the market can bear? Have I played with this at all? Like, how else could I package this? What else could I do with it? And try not to get kind of in a rut. But you can say, oh, I'm going to double my price. I'm going to charge $400 an hour. Lawyers do it. I can do it. Well, if you can't hold the energy of that price, you're never going to sell it. So it really comes down to what you believe your own value is and kind of what your beliefs are. So if you want to charge more, you got to work on that before you put that new price up, because you have to be kind of lined up with it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And something that I've talked about before, and maybe we could talk about this as well, since you've got multiple programs and it sounds like you have multiple ways of people to contact you or to connect with you through your business. It's all about having sales funnels. Are you strong? I'm assuming you're a strong proponent on having a sales funnel in place?
In some businesses.
Okay.
I personally avoid kind of the social media sales funnel type thing. I do have a program this year. I'm going to do a little bit of that with it, but my primary sales funnel is word of mouth and referrals. And I work really hard. When somebody gives me a referral, I will make sure that the person they referred is so happy that the person that referred him gets all the credit. So it's worked really well for me. So for the most part, my business is through word of mouth primarily. And if that's not happening, then I really feel like I'm doing something wrong, because when you hear about something that's going to, create a benefit that you really need or solve a problem, you'll refer it before you even use it. I think that there's this perception out there that people refer people they're happy with, but statistically, more referrals are given before somebody's experienced it. So they hear about a new restaurant, or, people like novelty, they like news. If they hear about something new, they'll talk about it, even if they haven't used it, which is really weird. or they'll refer when they've made the decision. So they don't know for sure it's going to be great, but maybe I'm going to buy something from you, Kevin, right? We have a conversation and I decide to sign up for something that you're doing. And so I've made the purchase decision, but maybe you haven't delivered the work, but I'll go tell 10 people because I'm so excited. And it's because my brain's focused on it in the purchase decision. Once I decide, my brain's on to something else. And so most people wait to ask for referrals until the very end. And so what I've done with my business is just say, listen, the reason I am affordable is because I grow by word of mouth. I don't do a lot of marketing. I like to like the people I work with. I have wonderful customers. So if you know anybody else that's wonderful like you, I'd love to meet them. And it's worked really, well for me. But I'm definitely, my version of sales training and is relationship sales.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Because one of the things that we kind of talked about in the pre-interview is that we were talking about marketing, and you say you do very little marketing. It's all of yours is a word of mouth, which is in some ways could be a very risky way of doing the business, but it's also you're keeping in kind of like your heartbeat or whatever you call it, your hand on on what's going on, because it's all more market, and it causes you to be more authentic and better at what you do because everything is driven by the word of mouth.
Yeah, so I'll take a little piece of that back. I work a lot on the marketing. I don't spend a lot on the marketing. So I work more on the messaging and what's the benefit and what's an easy way to explain it so that you could explain it to somebody else. Like financial advisors, they don't get a lot of referrals because people feel uncomfortable talking to other people about money. Mm-hmm. And then people don't always feel smart talking about financial strategies. So you have to find a way to refer a financial advisor by more who they are as a person or a program. You have to, make it a little easier for people to look good. So we actually have like a 4-pronged model on this. So I would spend a lot of times, like if I had a new program coming out, I'd spend a lot of time really working on what's the viral message? Like what is the piece or the story that I want people to share? And, really look at what about this is referable and really nailing that. And when you do that work up front, so it's kind of like, a good elevator pitch. I don't really like that word. I call it like a core conversation for your business. But you can do it for anything. You can do it for a program or person, whatnot. And you have a real estate business, right?
Yes.
So, who out there doesn't know 10 realtors, right? So why you? It's not going to probably be because you felt contracts better than other people, right? It's going to be something about who you are. Mm-hmm. And, it might be something about real estate, but you have to really sort of dig for what those referable elements are. So if you do that homework and you do it well, then when you do marketing, it's going to be so much more effective because you already got it working. You already know it works. It's referable. People are going, ooh, how do you do that? That's interesting. Tell me more about that. If you're not practicing these conversations and launching them out there to people and getting that feedback before you try anything online, you're really, in my opinion, wasting money.
Okay, and that makes sense because even if they were to call you and you're not prepared, it's just a waste of money to begin with, just to get those calls that are going to be ineffective anyway.
Right. Yeah, and that's like you can have a message that's way too broad, and then you get people that aren't your customer. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely encourage people to really niche themselves. So and that's what I'm kind of working on doing too. I got a little, you were saying I think you were asking me before, like what are, some of the things that have hooked you over the years. It's not all, I could pretend this was all easy since 2001. But there's been successes and there's, been challenges. And I think one of the challenges is it's easy to get distracted. So you have the business you have a plan, and then you get an opportunity with money attached and you say yes. And it's a little off plan, but you justify it in your head. It's okay. I have to provide for my family. Right. And next thing you know, you're in a totally different business. You're confusing your marketplace, and then you have to get back to center. And I've done that a few times and it's cost me, but I've also learned a lot.
And that's the thing is, as long as you're learning, and there was a lady that I interviewed a few weeks ago that's already been broadcasted, and she's changed her coaching, what she was coaching on, a couple of times.
Mhm.
She started off with women of domestic violence. Now she's a women's business coach. I mean,
Yeah.
they're completely different. The target market are still, in this case, female, but she completely changed it because she had to make a change. In this case, it was a deliberate change because she wanted to get away from that original
Mhm.
topic. So, okay,
Yeah,
well,
I've done
eh,
that.
I think we all have. We all have. I mean, even when I first started this business, in the coaching business, it was more on the relationship side of things. It was helping people. It was actually called Understanding Women Today. Was the original brand when I first came out in October 2014. And that was to help, helping women from a man's perspective. It's basically what it
Mhm.
started off with. Had nothing to do with business. It was just because I had a lot of female friends. Most of my closest friends are all females. Me giving my advice from a guy's perspective rather than a woman's assumption of what a guy would think of. But that was just not a part of that only lasted for a few months before I started realizing, hey, I'd rather work with entrepreneurs. I'd rather help people building something that they have in their mind, their concept, and then watering it and planting the seeds and whatever, and watching that grow. That's where it became more of a passion.
Exactly. Yeah, a great question is, what do you want to be known for?
Hmm.
And look at what you're doing today. Does this fit in somehow or not? And then choosing around it. But a really good example of this is I had a process to help people with anxiety with cold calls. So calling people that they didn't know, right? So a lot of people avoid them, and I'm like, you don't know them. What's the worst case? They're going to hang up on you. And so we had a process that really helped alleviate the anxiety, and people started becoming more effective. Well, next thing I know, somebody said, well, could you do some stuff for my kids on test anxiety for the SAT and math? And I was like, okay. So I did that. And then I started getting all these referrals. So, I mean, that's a potential business that's out there that I haven't really tapped. So that happened, which I thought was weird. And then just a couple of months ago, I went and did a presentation for an organization, a nonprofit here in Denver. And we did test result anxiety for health crisis. So when you get a cancer test or you get a breast exam and you're waiting 2 weeks for the results and you're scared to death, and giving people tools to help do that. And that all came from this thing that I randomly created 10 years ago for cold call anxiety. Same process, some modifications, but lots of applications. And so that's been a huge contribution to these women. And I'm really happy I was able to go do that. But in terms of, is that something I'm going to market and focus like a website on or focus my messaging on? I don't know, probably not.
Okay, and that's a good thing. I'm glad you kind of pointed that out as well. Is you created basically a product for one arena that was kind of niched, as you just said, but you didn't realize that it could be applied to so many other different arenas. I mean, I'm afraid of cold calling, and now I got to go get my 50-year-old, I just turned 50, so I have to go get that exam, about being 50. Like, okay, what are they going to find wrong with me?
Yeah. So what if you could stay calm and curious, with your health test, but what if you could have a different reaction? What if you didn't have to be nervous? What if you could feel confident?
Right. I mean, because the same thing would be doing this, say, if you're going to walk, you're about to walk out on stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's still another form of
Yeah,
anxiety.
we use that for public speaking quite a bit too, which does feel like in the parameters of what I do with, executives and salespeople that do have to get up and speak. And so, fear of public speaking is something I'm really familiar working with, but, math tests, SATs, not so much, but they all did great. So it worked.
Well, I mean, it's the same procedure, just being applied in a different way, that's phenomenal. So for those of you that are out there listening or watching this show, maybe it's something that you have created in the past or ideas that you have created. How can you repurpose that? And what is it that you can do with that like what Allison was just saying here, helping people through code calls to health issues to taking the SATs. I mean, you see, completely unrelated, but the core concept is still the same. So if you've got something out there, think about how can you repurpose that. Would you agree?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you also look at how is this thing I created, how did it make me feel? All these are helping, ease anxiety. So they do have that common thread. So that's where to look if you've created something in the past. So what were the emotional benefits as well? Is this something that gave people peace of mind? Is it, right? Somebody, whatever it is. A big one's control. A lot of people create products that give people the illusion, because we're never really in control, right?
That's true.
The illusion of feeling more in control of whatever it is. And so those, if you get a good kind of meaty one like that, those are the ones you can repurpose for sure.
Okay, and one of the things I'm hearing that you have a lot of passion for the stuff that you do. Well, why is it that you're so passionate for entrepreneurs?
Um, I think because it's so personal to an entrepreneur. So it's about self-expression. It's about anybody that's willing to jump in and do something like this, right? They're taking a big risk. And if they fail, it's not like, oh, that job didn't work out, I'll go get another one. It's devastating. And so they have so much at stake, and their self-esteem and their self-worth is in there, kind of a vision for the future's in there. Sometimes it's a commitment, for some reason, like maybe they had a family member that died of something and they came up with a product that solves that problem. So usually it's really personal and important, but failure is not an option. And so I just really am drawn to people that have that kind of conviction and commitment to something. And you can't always do it on your own. And so if they let me help them, I'll be as committed as they are. It may not be my thing, but their commitment is my thing. So I will play as hard and, with as much inspiration and enthusiasm as they will. And I like inspired people. And I like that feeling of that inspired action. And when I have a job, like a job, a lot of times it feels, there's great companies out there for sure and great leaders, but a lot of times it feels like force and you're putting in your time, and it's just not always, it's not always maybe what I would choose. But when I'm doing my company, I mean, nothing lights me up more, right, than doing what I love to do. And all my customers are entrepreneurs, so I'm surrounded by that energy all day long. It's so much fun.
Oh, and you're right. Hanging out with entrepreneurs is a completely different mindset. And I mean, in many cases, it can even be where they're being very creative as well. So just being around that different kind of energy, I know I can relate to it. Obviously, you can relate to it. And for those of you out there that are entrepreneurs or just getting started, go find other entrepreneurs. I mean,
and
you may
invite
want
us to your parties. We're fun at parties. There's way more to talk about.
Yes, because most people that have 9-to-5 jobs, or as you're saying, the 8-to-6 jobs, I think a friend of mine told me a few days ago was 80% of the people out in corporate America are not happy with their jobs.
Yeah.
Which is staggering. That 80% now most entrepreneurs are happy with their jobs because they're doing something that they're passionate about. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it to begin with. So.
Exactly. And going back to what I said before, if they're not, it's because they said yes to something that was a little off brand or off what their, true commitment is. And, the minute they straighten that out, they're happy again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it could be even letting go of a client, or in some cases, I know I'm starting to do this with some of the other business coaches that I've met and I've interviewed, is how can we collaborate with each other? Because there's going to be people that will come to me. It's like, well, we're not really meshing together. Let me refer you to Allison, or let me refer you to this other person. And how can we, collaborate with each other? Because if you're looking from the concept of abundance, then there's always enough out there.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I co-facilitate with people. I'll invite people to come speak at something I'm doing, because who wants to hear me talk all day? You have a couple guest people come in for 15 minutes, you get new information, ideas, you break it up. I mean, it's really a good experience for everybody, but I do that quite a bit. So I don't feel like I work by myself, but I get the benefits of working on my own.
Okay.
But I definitely seek that out quite a bit.
And same here. Every time that I've actually coordinated my own talks, I always had at least one other person there as well.
Mhm.
So my first two talks was with a lady by the name of Svetlana. And it was great having her because she was actually about 12 or 15 years younger than me, a lot prettier than I am. And she's also got that Russian accent. So just having that
Mhm.
diversity of going up there. And plus, for me, just, and I'm sure this is just a second nature, but she would introduce me to the stage because it's always good to be introduced by somebody else.
Yeah.
And then I would introduce her, and then she would introduce me back, and we helped each other out, even though we were at that time in 2014 we were in a similar industry. But now she's kind of a completely different route
Yeah.
now. So
If you can find somebody where you have that balanced energy, it's so much fun. I mentioned to you before, like 3-4 times a year, we run a money game,
mm-hmm.
and we call it Windfall. We change the name sometimes, but a friend of mine, Amanda, and I co-facilitate it, and we just have the best time. And it's 22 days on the phone, half an hour first thing in the morning, and we mess with people's minds about their predictable way they think about money, and everybody on that call makes money over the 22 days. So we usually tell people to have a minimum goal of 2,200 in 22 days, and so we have this whole thing, but people that play more than once know they can do that, so we up the goal. But we have all kinds of magic and fun things that get created, and the silliest stories, and just starting your day and that fun energy with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that are open to, maybe my money issues are just in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe none of this is real and I can change it like that. It's real fun. And every time when I'm not playing that game, I miss it. So we're about ready to start in January. So it's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. But entrepreneurs like games, they
Mm-hmm.
like to be challenged, and they like to play. They have that, what would you call it? That striver energy,
Okay.
where once you figure out something, you want to get to the next level. Well, that was cool. What else could I do? They don't get happy staying where they are. So they respond well to games. And I really think that's the direction I'm going to take my company moving forward, is because all the games I play and the coaching, and, I'll do challenges with people and do them in ways that are really different than how they thought about their business before, and they work really well. And I think there's just something about us entrepreneurs that, when we get our teeth in a good goal, we'll go after it.
Yeah.
Like to be bored.
And now that I think about it, yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, is that entrepreneurs have a different energy about them, a different mindset. They are, like you said, they're striving to do something more. While a lot of people that may have a cubicle job or something like that, they're just ho hum. They don't have that kind of
Or they're secretly striving, but they
yeah.
just haven't broken out yet.
Right. True.
I'd love to see a world that's all entrepreneurial, but I think we're far from that. There's other cultures, though, that have it flipped. Aren't we like 80-20 corporate to
Something like that.
yeah.
But I mean, and
That have it flipped.
well, and I mean, we still going to. There's every larger company is going to need those employees. I mean, Walmart's going to need other employees. So any big department store or McDonald's. I mean, you're still going to have the employees. I mean, that's the backbone of America. So, but if you could start your own business and start doing something that you're passionate about, then I'm 100% behind you. And how can we make that happen?
I'm not sure I'm a very good employee. I try, but
I tried as well in 1999, getting downsized. I mean, I have been a college math teacher since then. I have been, I've done bartending jobs and things like that back in the early 2000s. But since I moved out to Las Vegas in 2004, I've been strictly an entrepreneur since then.
that's so funny. See, we're doing corporate America a favor. But
Yeah. So I'm going to change gears a little bit here. So now that we kind of know who you are and what it is that you do. So you've been in business essentially since 2001. Like you said, I think you said you got downsized you got downsized because the company was going
the
out of
whole
business.
company just disappeared one day. Yeah.
And when I used to teach college math, I always had one class per semester that I would say, I'm not going to teach you any math today. Now, that's probably not necessarily sanctioned by the college, because it was 32 classes and I made my syllabus based on 30 classes. So I have one bonus day and then one extra day in case we needed to study for the final exam or something. But one of the things I used to teach was like, say, if you started a business, or excuse me, if you started working for a company and you got promoted, and your income went up, most likely your expenses are also going to go up to match. Like usually if you just got, say, a $20,000 a year raise, well, I could go out and remodel my kitchen now, or I could go buy that new car that I want. So your expenses tend to be close to where your income is. And I was talk to people, and this is just so they start thinking like an entrepreneur. I said, now imagine you get another promotion, your expenses go up. Get another promotion, your expenses go up again. And now let's say you decide that you're here, you are, you're going to work today, and you're driving up to the factory that you're working at, and of course, you work at Enron, and anyway, so you're pulling up to the factory at Enron, and all of a sudden the doors are closed. What happens to your income? What happens to your expenses? Expenses don't go away.
Yeah.
So when you're working for somebody else, you're at the mercy of somebody else. When you're working for yourself, you're at the mercy of what you're willing to put out there. Now, you were mentioning that you do a lot of stuff that's off of war market referrals. So most of your business comes from war market referrals, which is a phenomenal way of doing business. And I would say that's a very it can be a challenging way, especially if you're just getting started. It's like, oh, how do I do all this? But if you needed to, you could start a marketing campaign. You could bring in additional businesses by doing something a little bit different. So you are directly in control of your own income.
Yeah. And some of the programs like that Money Game, we're going to look at doing more formal marketing to try and make that a little more passive. So, when you've kind of proven something out for 3 or 4 years and you know what to expect and you know what works and doesn't, and you fix the glitches, I think you're in a really good position, of asking that question, is there a way to automate it? So, yeah. But you can't, it sounds predictable, but you can't predict anything. So, the craziest things have happened, where I think something's happening for sure. And then it just totally doesn't happen. So I think having multiple revenue streams in any business is smart, which is why I've started to put things into programs, right? So, that I think, it's kind of like being diversified in your investments, right? Having more than one income stream in a business. So if something does for some reason go away, that you're not at zero.
Well, because
not fun for anybody.
Well, all our markets have fluctuations. You've been in business for 16, 17 years. So you have your up years or up months and down years and down months. I know me, when I was a real estate agent, there would be times of the year that people don't buy houses, which is typically October through January. Mainly because of the holidays, either Hanukkah or Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, for Americans, and then New Year's, and then most people are paying off their Christmas expenses in January, and they're waiting on their tax returns starting in February, March. That's when the market goes up. So if you're depending on making the income as a real estate agent during those months, you may not have, you have to understand your cycles.
Right.
But as you say, if you have multiple income streams coming in, you've got your coaching business, you've got your seminar training business, you've got your online programs, you've got your offline programs, your tangible programs. And you've got all of this stuff going on, and you've got money games going on. That's great ways to have multiple streams of income coming into your business.
Yeah, that's the fun one. You just do it because it's really fun. But I think the turning point for me and how to think about things is when I stopped selling my time. And I think for people that are coaches or consultants, it's a really easy trap to start selling time instead of value. And getting people in groups is a really good way to be, to not say, oh, my hour is worth this. Well, I have 12 people in a group for an hour. That's a whole different, set of numbers, right? Than if I'm working with an individual. So, when I just started saying, okay, I only have so much time, I'm capped, right? There's no leverage. There's nowhere to go from here, just getting busier. But, I think that entrepreneurs work for freedom, right? Freedom in your life. But also freedom to work when you want to and to not work. And so if time is a big part of your business, there's a point at which you start resenting time and you start resenting your customer because they're taking all your time. And that's not how anybody wants to be if you're in a helping profession. So So really giving that up and getting creative and going, so what can I do that's not time-based?
Well, there's a book out there. It was one of my favorite books on business. It's called The 4-Hour Work Week by
Oh,
Tim Ferriss.
great book.
So you've read it. And for those of you out there listening or watching this, I would strongly get a copy of it. I have it on my bookshelf over my left shoulder here. And there's an acronym that Tim uses in that book. And Alice has been kind of touching on this in what she's just been saying. And it's the acronym is the word DEAL. D as in dog, EAL. And that deal is an acronym that stands for the 4 things that you should be doing in your business. Number 1 is the D. What can you delegate? What can you have other people do, either employees or outside contractors? And then the E is what can you eliminate? So what is it that you're doing that is absolutely has nothing to do with your business, but you're spending a lot of time on it? So
Yeah.
figure that out. The third one, the first 3 are the most important, is the word automate. What can you automate? Essentially, what can you put on autopilot, like hiring let's say if I'm talking about this podcast, is once the show is over, okay, it will go to my editor. This will be the person that's going to be editing the audio. And that way I don't have to worry about doing any of that. And then the last letter is the letter L. And this is what is probably the most important part, but most people spend almost no time on thinking about is liberate. What are you going to do when you have all this free time?
I like that.
So so that's a great book for those of you out there. I've listened to it maybe 3 or 4 times because I usually do audio books rather than reading books. But if you have a chance to read or listen to that book, I highly, highly, highly recommend that.
I have a friend who read the book, loved the book, and thought the title was The 4-Day Work Week and was so excited that she might only have to work 4 days. I'm like, no, it's 4-hour. And she couldn't even get her mind around it. That's kind of why I like that book so much, because it messes with how we look at the world.
Because it was unfathomable to her. She could not figure out how can he do all of that, but it's because he delegated, eliminated, automated, and then he had the free time to go and do what he wanted to do. So.
Exactly.
So let me ask you about some of your early successes when you were first just getting started in your business. Could you tell me about some of your early successes that other people could possibly learn from?
Well, when I was married, we were franchisees and brought a business here to Denver, and that went really well. And I think just seeing really up close how much work it took. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. I didn't think it would be easy. So I was realistic, I think, but, I got that taste of that entrepreneurial spirit. So having stacking successes is a powerful thing. So when you have a little success, how can you build on that? How can you build on that? That's really good for the mind, and your sanity. So I was kind of coming on, off that, like having some confidence that this was possible, but really one of the successes was just doing it and not thinking. I did get a little bit lucky, but I used my relationships. I've always had good relationships. I can build relationships quickly. And so having people that already had trust and confidence in me or had worked with me in some way, and then going and asking. And I think some people are afraid to ask for help, ask for referrals, and just to say, hey, Kevin, you've known me and we've had a bunch of successes, and I would never embarrass you with anybody that's important to you. I would value your relationships as much as mine. Here's what I'm doing. Is there anybody you know that might benefit from what I do? So I did a lot of that. I did a little technique that I have taught in other classes before where, and I would say it's a success because it led, to client acquisition, but I met with people that I didn't necessarily think were my customer, but that I knew were people that knew my customer and people that were pretty widely networked. And I just said, hey, I have a new business. Here's how I'm marketing it. Here's how I'm talking about it. I really value your insight and your opinion. Would you give me feedback? And I just had coffee with them and just showed them what I was doing and said, so some people give me great suggestions and some people give me the stupidest suggestions because I think when you ask for input, people feel like they have to give you input. So I smiled and said, thank you so much. And I took some of it and I didn't take some of it. But what happened is, and I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was training people on how to talk about me by exposing them to everything in a low pressure environment, because I didn't even think they were my customers. And some of them became customers and some referred. And my worst case was I got to practice talking about what I was doing. So that was a success that, just kind of happened, that I stumbled across. And so, sometimes when I feel like maybe things are dipping down a little bit, it's time to, who do I know that I love hanging out with that would make sense to go meet with? Not from I'm going to get them as a customer, but I need to get back into sharing my story and talking about what I do and getting feedback. So that was kind of a big success. But, I think early on, the biggest one was there was a national sales organization that had offices here in Denver. And I was collaborating with one of their trainers, and we were teaching, some small, medium-sized classes. And he brought me into this national organization, and we were able to go train around the country doing advanced sales training for a sales training company. So our customer were their clients that had been around for 10, 12 years, had seen all their stuff and wanted to see something new. And so it was so fun because we were working with very, very established senior level salespeople that just wanted new stuff. And so we got to go play with them. And so I met all kinds of people I never would have, played with before, got to use that company as a really good credible, so if you're a sales trainer and you get hired by one of the most well-known sales training companies to do advanced sales training, it makes it easier to sell your services in the future. So that was a fun thing. And it was all through somebody I knew and building relationships. And, it wasn't like that was an interview kind of thing. It just was organic. But that was a win for us.
Now, when you were offered the opportunity, did you have doubts? Did you have fears or?
No, because so the content we brought was what I'd already been doing with him, and it was working, and we were getting a lot of feedback. So it was I got the opportunity because of the reaction to what we were doing. And this is the brain stuff, the subconscious mind, like changing beliefs at the level of the subconscious and changing things structurally in the body. We were doing like audio and visual and kinesthetic processing exercises with them, and nonverbal communication. So we were doing things, we were videoing people and having them do a little presentation so they could see the weird things their bodies were doing. It might be creating a little, lack of confidence with the people they were selling. We were doing the cold call anxiety stuff. So we had these things they'd never done before that were fun, a lot of up and down, and you share this and break into groups, and it wasn't lectures, so it was very interactive and fun. So and I still do a lot of that stuff today.
Okay, and then let me ask you this then. When you were just getting started, I know you said that you and your husband had a franchise, and then I guess you also had a different job going on at that time, because that's when you also got downsized. What were some of your biggest fears when you were just getting started, and what did you do to overcome them or get past them?
Yeah, so the franchise was primarily his business, and I just kind of helped, on the side. I did marketing stuff and whatever. And then I had worked at Ray-Ban for a long time, which was at the time a Bausch & Lomb company. And that's one of the last times I worked in a product-based company. So I tend to work more in service-based businesses. And I'm working with a product-based company now. So it's been on my mind a lot recently, because that's a whole different animal. So I've had to dig deep to do this. But, we made a move from Rochester, New York to Denver to do that business. And so it was a big move, but we were having kids at the same time. So honestly, I was more focused on the kids and the move and everything else. And I had a lot of trust and confidence in his ability to do that business. And he did really well at it. But it was a lot of work. It was 3 a.m. mornings and late nights and not a lot of sleep. So, and like I said, I didn't get ready to do my own business. Like it had been in my back of my mind here and there, but it really just happened. Like we found out that we didn't have jobs. We had 3 months of healthcare. Go. And I just picked up the phone and I went. So I think I should have been really, really scared knowing what I know now.
Well, sometimes it's good to not know what you need to know. So
Yeah, and
or
but
ignorant.
I did this after we got divorced. It really was all me. So for me, taking a risk in my business, because I don't have that second income to rely on, where you can say, honey, do you mind taking the lead for a few months? I want to try this. Since I don't have that, I do sometimes hold back, or I get a little more conservative than I wish I did. But, conservative's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
But yeah, I would say that that's my Achilles heel, is when I start thinking and I start going, well, if I do this, my income might not look so great for a while. Do we really want to do this? So I try not, I try to plan a little more than I did back then.
Okay. And then let me
smarter as I've gotten old.
Age is just a figment of your imagination, in my opinion. So what about some of your biggest challenges, either at the beginning or stuff that maybe you're going through right now?
Well, right now, I have a huge challenge, and it's happened maybe 3 or 4 times, and it did happen early on. I have a client where I'm working almost full time for one client, and that's not normally how it is, right? Usually I have sessions and I'm doing all this stuff, and it's just become consuming. So I'm going to have to kind of like renegotiate it. And I work with a lot of startups. So sometimes the startups, it's all hands on deck, right? And when you start getting things that work, I mean, what are you going to do, right? People want to buy your services, so everybody's going to pitch in. So there's just been a lot of work. So in one way, that's really good. But I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for somebody else. So I'm having to, like you do the delegate. I'm having to back off from that and find my balance in my own company again. And so I did, from about mid-summer, this past summer till now, I've let myself kind of fall into that a lot more. So it's fine, but it's just, I always have to keep an eye on it. What's the balance I want in my company, like in terms of how much time, but also in terms of the contracts and the people and the kinds of work I'm doing. And I miss my clients, and I've had to say no to some people, and I don't want to do that. And, and I haven't, we haven't done a seminar in like 4 months. So I can't wait. I'm really excited to get back out there.
Well, I'm excited for you as well.
It's a huge challenge, and it creates too much dependency economically, when you're just working for a few, when you don't have that diversity. So that is my biggest issue, and I need to learn to say no.
Well, it could be learn to say no, or start taking on other people. So start expanding. That way you could take on more clients.
So you made that acronym. What was the not the automate? What was the E?
Eliminate. What can you get rid of?
That's a good one.
Well, because a lot of us, and as entrepreneurs, I'm sure you see it as well as with startups, is they do a lot of busy work that they don't really need to be doing. Either they could delegate it, or they could just completely do away with it.
Absolutely. And there's certain clients, and you were talking about the icky clients, the ones that sometimes are high maintenance. We call them PIDAs. I don't know if you've ever heard that acronym.
No.
PIDA, pain in the asset. They sometimes take more, you're making money, but you're almost losing it in the extra time it takes. And it's just not maybe the perfect fit. And they might be the perfect customer for somebody else, and you should let them have them.
Well, because I'm going through that exact scenario right now. Is there's a service that I do sometimes, and it's basically a one-time. We meet up one time, 60, 90 minutes. That's it, and I charge a flat rate for it. Well, that one-time meeting has now turned into 3 meetings, at least 15 phone calls, at least 20 different emails. Like, this is not what I signed up for. But thankfully, everything came to a close last night. So I was like, okay, now that one's done. But
Yeah, you get all that energy back when you get rid of the client or the structure that's not working. Doesn't
mhm.
it feel amazing?
It does, and it's also that sense of completion, and also it's me. I have to become more aware of how am I setting up my boundaries.
Hmm.
So for those of you that are out there that are listening or watching this, if if you've got these clients that are basically a PETA, using Allison's word, uh, you may have to renegotiate the contract, or you maybe have to get more clarity on how are you presenting yourself.
Well, we used to say invite them to become a customer. And you can say, so we're doing this, but what I do with my customers is this, would you be willing to do this? And a lot of times they'll go, oh, okay, I didn't know, so it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with them. It just might be the structure, but usually they go away.
Yeah, please. And you as an entrepreneur, you do have the choice of who you can or who you want to or do not want to work for. For as an example, and I said, go to any restaurant. I don't care if it's here in Las Vegas or there in Denver. There's always a sign right by the cash register that says, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. So if a restaurant can do it, why shouldn't you be able to do it yourself?
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I would say, I would say that those are like what I would consider the failures, the things that I've really learned from. Anytime I have said yes and I wasn't excited about working with that person, if my attention was more on, oh, good, I got a client, I'm getting a check, it always went bad. But every time I've been like, oh my gosh, I just love this person. I'm so excited about what they're up to. I know they can do it. This is going to be so much fun. When I'm excited about the work and the person, they end up being like an amazing customer, and they usually end up being a wonderful referral source.
Okay.
And without ever having to ask, right? Just because, there's some like-mindedness happening. And so, you can't betray your gut. For sure. And every time I've done it, it's just led me down a rat hole that I have to clean up later.
And there was a lady I interviewed a couple of weeks ago. Her name is Galena.
Mm-hmm.
She was on, I think, episode number 9.
I saw it. Mm-hmm.
And Galena has a way for her coaching business. There's a maybe, a yes, and a hell yes. And she only works with hell yeses.
Okay, so that's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to adopt the hell yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, hell yes. So Allison, let me, because as we're approaching like 52 minutes now into the show, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. Are there any lessons or upbeat moments that you would like to share with an entrepreneur that maybe just getting started, they're looking to scale their business? You're 16, 17 years of business. Any tidbits of information or advice that you would give to somebody?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I'm definitely more that creation kind of inspired person. I can brainstorm for hours about awesome stuff. I had to get really good at process, and I didn't even have a business plan when I started, and I got kind of a little lucky. But having a plan really helps. You don't have to stay on plan, but knowing when you're on plan and when you're not, and then choosing that on purpose is really valuable. But one of the examples I'll give you is I was doing a business for a while that had a lot of cash going in and out of the business, like same day, thousands of dollars. And I mean, I'm in a service-based business, so it pretty much just comes in. And it was huge amounts going out, huge amounts coming in. And my sister is a CPA. I do not have the same genetic material as my sister when it comes to accounting. So I took accounting in college. I found it challenging. And so now I'm in this business for a while with the money flowing in and out. And the only way I'm going to survive this is really to take it on. So I would suggest really looking honestly, what are my blind spots? What am I avoiding? What do I hate doing? And if you can delegate it, great. But if not, take it on as a challenge. So what I did is I taught myself QuickBooks. It took me about 2 weeks. I watched every video ever. I called my sister 50 times. I'm like, why do they do this? She goes, I know. It's just how they do it. So you have to do it that way too. I said, it makes no sense. I know. And so I kind of got myself a coach, right? You're not a good coach if you don't have a coach. So I got myself, a backup person for my accounting. I dove in. I decided I was going to master it, but I was like, if I want to have a viable business, I can't be afraid of looking at the money and understanding it. And I'm actually really good at accounting now, I have to say. There'll be times when I help my clients with their, set up accounting things. So this thing that I thought I was horrible at ended up being, I don't love it, but it's a viable skill set that I have now. But I did take it on, and I was really proud of myself. I was kind of shocked, honestly, but I was so proud of myself that I took it on and kind of mastered it, and it made all the difference in that business. And I make smarter, decisions. But if I hadn't gotten into that one project with all that cash flow, I might be here now with a blind spot around the finances in my business and a lot more, sad stories to tell you. So, but that's a great question. Like, what am I avoiding in my business? What's the one thing that if I had that skill, or I could find somebody that would give me that skill for free, would make all the difference. And for me, that was like structuring accounting. And I think sometimes structure and process, people feel like it's like prison, like it's going to control them or something, but there's freedom in it. When you have like that automation, when you have that process, when you know how it's supposed to go, it actually frees up so much energy, and, it really allows you more. You don't have to keep it all in your head when you have a process. So now, I've transformed that. I actually love process now, which is so crazy because I spent a lot of my life avoiding it. So, so those are, I think some things that I would recommend.
Okay. And I agree with you there as well. Even if you don't like doing something, at least become somewhat familiar with it, even if you're going to delegate it to somebody else. That way you can still keep your hands, you'll understand, like, okay, in your case, the accounting books just came in. You can quickly look over, like, does this look right or not?
Yeah.
You may not be doing it yourself, but you understand it.
If you delegate it from avoidance, that's when you can get taken advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. And that could be in anything.
So you do want to learn it. It does not mean you have to do it for the rest of your life, but you want to learn enough that you know that the person you delegate to, if they're good or not.
Mm-hmm. So. Oh, absolutely. I mean, same thing with say building a website. At least be a little bit familiar with it. If you're doing blogs, or like in my case, the podcast, I understand the editing part of it now that I'm starting to delegate it to somebody else. So when the show comes back and I'm listening to it before I'm going to launch it, I can say, okay, you forgot this, you forgot this, you forgot this, and I mean, the first podcast that I had somebody else do, I actually told the guys, hey, the interview people, the person being interviewed is speaking too fast. Not meaning that they're talking like they're from New York. Their one sentence and led to another sentence was just too quickly. It's like, you got to put a quarter second or half second pause in there. I mean, you take out that breath, yes, but then that one statement go to the next statement. You need those little pauses. And so I was teaching him how to do that, and now he's starting to come back with better quality stuff.
So the thing that you just said for the people just starting, getting support, asking for help, and being willing to take the criticism like that. So if you have a good friend, just say, what are the things that you think are going to have me be successful? Mm-hmm. Like, what are the things you see in me that maybe I don't see? And then what do you think are the 2 or 3 things I need to work on? If you can't get honest feedback, the market will give you honest feedback. So if you can't get it from your friends, you're not ready.
No, even from your clients as well.
It's true, but I mean, just being willing to be really open to all of it. I would be embarrassed if I saw a video of how I talked or what the work I delivered or how I trained, what did we say, 18, 19 years ago. I'd be mortified, right? I'm just worried with what I do right now. It's a process, and I think people have to be forgiving and get that you're going to learn along the way, and it's going to get better and better.
Okay. And I mean, and actually I still have, because I shot a lot of video when I was real estate agent. I mean, I probably have nearly 500 videos of walkthroughs of houses
Yeah.
going all the way back into October 2009. And my very first video, I mean, I was 250 pounds back then. I mean, I was like 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I wasn't wearing a great shirt. My hair was all messed up. I was walking through a house. I had dogs barking, echoes on floor with the TV on, and an absolutely horrible video. And obviously, it was my first video back then, so I uploaded it to YouTube. And then, of course, I've done subsequent videos since then over the years. Do you think that video is still up on YouTube right now?
Probably.
Absolutely, it is. I'm proud of it. This is how far I've come. I mean, look at this. This is testament. You can't fake this. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to just start.
Yes.
I mean, the big thing is just start wherever you are and just start. And you don't have to quit your job to start a business. You can do it on the side. It's probably actually advisable. It takes the pressure off. Then every win is just, you're getting closer and closer to that time where you can, change the game.
Yep. I fully agree. So you start while you have a job, while you have income, and then yes, you can go ahead and build it. Now, if you're like myself or you're like Allison, you got downsized and you don't want to go work for corporate America again. Sometimes being thrown into the fire is the preferred method. You could be like Allison, that was like a 5-year-old, no fear, just go headstrong. It's just.
I know. Yeah, and about 5 years later, when the recession or whatever happened.
Right.
It did feel like that starting over. I was a lot more cautious. I didn't really see that coming. I was just kind of doing my thing. I wasn't totally paying attention to what was going on. And I think you can make great money in a down economy. So don't buy into just because we're in a recession or just because something's happening in an industry that it has to affect you. But it did change the game a little bit for a while. And I didn't really see it coming at first. And so then I scrambled. And so I hit about a good 6 months of some pretty good fear. And I did what you suggested. I started collaborating with people and we just teamed up to try and just do it together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how we got through that period. There's about 5 or 6 of us and we just, okay, we're stronger together. We can do it. And because it was a little scary.
Yes, it can be, and it's like we said before, everything goes in cycles. So you have to be prepared for the downsides.
If you're a new entrepreneur, save money. Every single dollar that comes in, just pick a percent, put it in a savings account, and don't touch it.
Actually, I'm going to second that by saying, not only do you put some money to a savings account, you open a second savings account, and that's where you put all your money that you'll be paying your taxes with.
Yes.
Because you have to be prepared because your taxes aren't being taken out when you're an entrepreneur, and that's the whole topic of another show. So,
and that's a really interesting one. People will say, okay, I'm going to charge $150 for whatever I'm doing, this little session or something, and then they think, oh, this is great, I have $150. No, you don't. You have the part you're saving, you have your taxes, and then you have all your expenses, and so. When you really break it down, that's how you increase your prices. When you really see that the part you're getting is not very much, that's the fastest way to increase your prices for sure. But I love that. I love multiple savings accounts. You can have a travel account. You can.
I have 6 bank accounts.
Do you?
For my business.
I have 4.
So yes, I have one for my personal savings, personal checking, business checking. The taxes account, the investments account, and then the education account.
Well, then we're good because I wasn't counting checking. So yeah, I have 2 of those. I have 6 too, and I have 4 savings accounts, and I use them for different things.
So that's going to be the topic of another show because that's a whole
great topic. You should totally do that show.
Yeah. Yes. I learned it. It's called the JAR system. So, but yeah, that will be a topic of another show. However, right now we're a little over than an hour right now. So we normally try to keep this under an hour. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, Allison, before we go, are there any last words that you would like to share with the audience or even with myself?
Just trust your inspiration. If you have that moment where you really feel inspired and you can see it, you may not know how it's all going to come together, but really trust that, because that is kind of that inner wise part of you saying, ooh, this could work, so something really catches your eye. And you think, wow, this could be a business, like write it down, document it, don't lose that, because that stuff's gold.
Absolutely.
Every
Well, that's very good advice. Always have something to write it down on, or in today's technology, there's apps like Evernote or other kind of notepads. You could just put it in on your phone and come back to it later. So, okay, how valuable is this idea or this
Yeah,
concept?
don't talk to people. If you think it's a great idea, it's a great idea. You don't have to don't let people talk you out of it.
And that's good, just very good advice, especially if your people you're talking to are not entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So, so anyway, well, Allison, I do want to say thank you for being on the show today.
Fun. Thanks for having me.
No, of course, it's my pleasure. I mean, my whole goal here is to help not only your business out and get more awareness to who you are and what you do, but also to have the advice and the knowledge that you have to go into the brains of the listener, so they can say, hey, maybe they could start doing something a little bit different as well, and to actually start or to expand that business that they have.
Yeah, and if we'll put this probably online, but if any of your listeners ever want feedback on like a elevator pitch or marketing pitch, I do that. Just, I do that for friends and family all the time. So happy to do that. So we'll put something up about that. But
okay, well, that's good to know. Is there like a website that you want to send people to that may want to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so we have AllisonTaylor.net. In that website, it does lead to other sites and things, but you can find lots of information on programs we're doing, and information's about referral marketing, which we talked about, and message makeovers, and what's important in a good referral marketing elevator pitch.
Okay, so that was AllisonTaylor.net. That's AllisonTaylor.net. And like she said, she's got all kinds of different leads and stuff on there that she'll be able to give you a hand on that. And if you want to hire her for or do some consulting with her as well, I'm sure you can contact her through. You can contact her through that website as well. So, Allison, I do want to say thank you for being on the show. It's been a great pleasure having you here today. Thank you. Oh, it's my pleasure. And for those of you that are listening to the show, as you know, she was talking about feedback or testimonials and such. Below the video on the YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, or on my website at kevinadunlap.com, which you can see all of the shows on there, please leave a comment. Please leave a message, positive or negative. We're always looking to try to improve ourselves. And also, if you're on iTunes, please give us a good rating as well. And we would really appreciate that. So any last words before we say goodbye?
I'm good. You enjoy your warm weather. I'll enjoy my snow.
Yes, it is winter. It is almost winter. Actually, it is the first day of winter, I think, today. So enjoy your beautiful weather you're having up there.
It's white.
Okay, I'll see everybody later.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit kevinadunlap.com, facebook.com/kevinadunlap.author, and on Twitter @KevinADunlap. We'll catch you on the next episode of Life's Little Lessons.